What you are witnessing are the vivid scenes of the Senegalese national team players and their devoted supporters celebrating fervently right within the heart of the stadium in Rabat, Morocco. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. Let us speak honestly for a moment. What could possibly be sweeter than clinching a major championship trophy directly on the home turf of your fiercest rival? Consider the context of the Moroccan national team. They entered this prestigious tournament carrying the weight of an entire nation's expectations, backed by years of strategic investment and a journey of systematic accumulation. All of that preparation was designed to culminate in a historic triumph at home. However, in a matter of moments, they watched as their grand ambitions collapsed right before their eyes on their very own ancestral soil. As for the Teranga Lions of Senegal, this sporting achievement felt like nothing less than a grand footballing conquest of the African continent. Meanwhile, back in Dakar, the vibrant capital of Senegal, the streets were literally overflowing with people. It was a demographic tapestry. The elderly, small children, and the passionate youth. Everyone simultaneously poured out onto the boulevards. There was no need for a formal invitation, no pre-written script, and no central coordination. There was only one singular driving reason for this mass gathering: to bask in the reflected glory of Senegal's victory. In reality, the world must recognize that Senegal is by no means a weak or emerging footballing nation. For many years, their domestic systems and European connections have continuously produced world-class stars who dominate top-tier leagues. What they lacked in their trophy cabinet was simply one more Afcon title, a second consecutive crown to provide the ultimate affirmation. They needed to prove that their previous championship was not a stroke of luck or a fleeting moment of fortune, but rather the beginning of a true era of Senegalese dominance in African football. The final match itself was a masterclass in high-stakes drama. It featured a controversial penalty awarded in the dying embers of the game. It witnessed 10 minutes of absolute, unmitigated chaos when the Senegalese players made the fateful decision to walk off the pitch in a collective protest against the referee's officiating. This was followed by a grueling 30 minutes of extra time where physical exhaustion met mental fortitude, eventually leading to the ultimate lottery of football, the fateful penalty shootout. After the dust had settled and the medals were distributed, the Senegalese contingent believed that this victory would serve as the definitive springboard for their journey toward the FIFA World Cup 2026. They moved with the highest level of confidence, even daring to dream of recreating the African miracle. Much like the historic semi-final run Morocco achieved at the Qatar World Cup in 2022. But then, the unthinkable happened. Everything collapsed. Those vibrant celebrations in the streets of Dakar, those raw, overwhelming emotions on the podium in Rabat, it turned out, in the eyes of the governing bodies, that they meant absolutely nothing at all. The turning point occurred when the Confederation of African Football, CAF, decided to reopen the official match files. The specific 10-minute window during which the Senegalese players left the pitch, a gesture intended to be a protest for fairness, became the deciding legal detail that would strip them of their glory. They were formally concluded to have engaged in a refusal to play. The final administrative result was as follows. Senegal was handed a 0-3 loss on paper. It was a tragic ending where you win the battle on the green grass, but you lose the entire war on the official documents. Fast forward a few months later. During a high-profile Champions League clash between Real Madrid and Manchester City, when the match result was practically settled, a small but vocal group of fans suddenly erupted in a passionate celebration in the stands. It was not difficult for observers to recognize that they were chanting the name of Brahim Diaz. This was a rather peculiar moment, given that while Diaz is a talented playmaker, he is not typically the type of global megastar who possesses a nomadic, private fan club following him to every single match. At that moment, the player himself did not think much of the commotion. Diaz assumed the chants were simply the general enthusiasm of the Madridistas celebrating an overwhelming team performance. After the match concluded, he followed his usual routine, walking around the perimeter of the pitch and clapping his hands to express gratitude to the supporters. Until a life-changing phone call arrived in the dressing room, or perhaps it was a notification from a frantic associate in the stands. At that moment, Diaz realized that he wasn't just celebrating a Champions League win. He was witnessing the moment his national team, Morocco, was officially awarded the African Championship by executive decree. The transformation in his facial expression was instantaneous. There was a look of profound relief, a visible shedding of a massive psychological burden. To understand this, one must remember that previously, Brahim Diaz was under perhaps the most intense scrutiny of any player in the squad. As Morocco's premier attacking creative force, his failed Panenka-style penalty attempt during the final had made him the lightning rod for national criticism. The reality of being a dual national player is often harsh. When the team wins, you are a hero. But when the team loses, critics quickly pivot to questioning your very identity, mocking you as just a Spaniard who doesn't truly feel the shirt. Diaz had chosen Morocco over Spain, and he was being crushed by the weight of that decision. Therefore, this unexpected administrative reversal, regardless of how controversial it was for the continent, became a personal sanctuary for Diaz ahead of the 2026 World Cup. The paradox was stark. While Diaz felt a sense of personal salvation, the rest of the Moroccan footballing world was caught in a whirlwind of tension, public outrage, and the fallout of one of the most disputed decisions in the history of African sports. And this will be the entire story regarding the decision to reverse this result by the authorities. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, announced on Tuesday evening, 57 days after the final, that the appeals board had declared Senegal to have lost the match they once won 1-0 on January 18th. CAF stated that this decision originated from the appeal of the Royal Moroccan Football Federation, FRMF, following the match in which Senegal won in extra time, in the context that this team had left the field during regular time to protest a refereeing decision. FIFA President Gianni Infantino, who was present at the final, once remarked that the act of Senegal players leaving the pitch was unacceptable, causing a disruption lasting more than 15 minutes. Morocco declared their intention to proceed with legal procedures immediately after the match, while CAF also confirmed they were reviewing the entire development. The match was interrupted for about 16 minutes after Morocco was awarded a penalty in second-half injury time, while Senegal had just been denied a goal that could have settled the match only a few minutes prior. Senegal's head coach, Pape Thiaw, requested the players to leave the field, with Captain Sadio Mane being the only one to remain. When the Senegal players returned, Morocco's Brahim Diaz missed the penalty. Afterward, Pape Gueye scored the only goal of the match in the 94th minute. The final became even more chaotic when scuffles broke out in the stands at the Stade Prince Moulay Abdallah, with collisions between supporters of both teams and even security forces during the time the match was interrupted. In its announcement, CAF stated that the appeals board determined Senegal's actions fell within the scope of Articles 82 and 84. Accordingly, Senegal violated Article 82 of the Afcon regulations, which stipulates that a team will be handled a loss if they leave the field before the match ends without the permission of the referee. Article 84 clearly states that the violating team will be handled a 0-3 loss unless the opponent is leading with a more favorable score. The Senegalese Football Federation, FSF, has not yet provided an official comment, but immediately after the decision was announced, they posted a video of the celebration on an open-top bus. Several players also expressed their reactions on social media. Ismail Assar posted an Instagram story with many laughing emojis, while El Hadji Malik Diouf wrote, "Champions, speak up." Moussa Niakate said, "Come and get the medals. They are crazy." Goalkeeper Yvonne Diouf reposted the celebration image with the caption, "In the eyes of the whole world." Pathé Sis wrote, "Just add 3 more goals for those who cry a lot," accompanied by a laughing emoji. Champions of Africa! From the perspective of the FRMF, they acknowledged the CAF decision not as a stolen victory, but as a necessary enforcement of the tournament's integrity. The federation emphasized that their appeal was not intended to diminish the on-field performance of the athletes, but rather to ensure that the established regulations of the game were upheld. They argued that allowing a team to walk off the pitch without consequence would set a dangerous precedent for the stability of all future African competitions. However, the legendary Morocco coach, Walid Regragui, took a more philosophical and critical stance. Speaking after the incident, he described the scenes as embarrassing and humiliating for the image of African football on the global stage. He maintained that regardless of the officiating quality, professional teams have a moral obligation to remain on the pitch in both victory and defeat. The tension between these two West and North African giants has since transcended the boundaries of the football pitch. Following the riots in the stands, 18 Senegalese supporters were sentenced to prison terms in Morocco. This led to a diplomatic intervention, with the Senegalese government pledging to provide legal aid to its citizens. President Ousmane Sonko of Senegal even weighed in on the matter, noting that the situation had moved into a sensitive political territory. He reminded both nations that as historic friends and regional allies, they should not allow a football match to jeopardize their bilateral relations. Despite these calls for calm, mass protests erupted in the streets of Dakar throughout the month of February, fueled by a sense of deep-seated injustice. This is a complex chain of events, with many issues needing to be clarified. Senegal clearly violated the regulations when leaving the pitch, but the broader context is also very notable. Many opinions suggest that Morocco received advantages from refereeing decisions throughout the tournament. A number of controversial situations had appeared from previous matches, contributing to making Senegal react violently in the final. CAF's decision will certainly create much controversy. Not a few people think that Morocco exerted pressure and achieved what they wanted, thereby raising doubts about their influence within CAF. At the same time, a series of questions remain unanswered. Will Senegal be stripped of the trophy and medals? Will Morocco's victory be widely recognized? And how does coach Walid Regragui feel after having resigned immediately after the tournament? CAF will likely face a large wave of criticism, especially when the penalties for Morocco in the final were reduced. The Senegalese side is extremely tense after this decision, which is understandable. A team that thought they had won the championship, had celebrated, had brought the cup home. Now to be handled a loss on paper is almost a massive psychological shock. It is highly likely they will proceed with an appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, to overturn the case, because this is not just a title, but also the honor of an entire generation of players. However, in reality, Senegal will also have to face another problem. The 2026 World Cup is approaching, and with a collective currently in its prime like the present, they cannot let this story drag on for too long and affect their preparation. Therefore, the most reasonable scenario is to simultaneously appeal legally while being forced to set aside emotions to focus on the larger goal. Because in the end, a title can be disputed, but the World Cup, that is the stage for them to prove everything.